Hello and welcome to the Week in the Middle East. I'm Claire Murphy. Here's what we have lined up for you in the programme. Human rights groups call on rebels in Syria to immediately cease their practice of recruiting underage soldiers. We look at how the Syrian conflict continues to spill over its borders with deadly consequences. And last week's third annual international marathon in Jerusalem sadly failed to escape being drawn into political animosities. So we begin in Syria, where children continue to pay a horrendous price in the conflict between rebels and the regime. But young people are not just dying or being maimed in the violence, they're also being co-opted into taking part. In recent weeks, new images have surfaced of child soldiers being trained by the rebel Free Syrian Army. This is despite the fact that international law prohibits the use of anyone under 18 in combat or support operations. Recruiting under 15s is a war crime. Oliver Farry reports.
A secret training camp run by the Free Syrian Army. Among the apprentice soldiers is Badia, 16 years old.
We're doing this drill in preparation to occupy the city of Idlib, God willing.
Badia claims to have already seen combat. The Free Syrian Army says its recourse to using underage soldiers helps it to make up for heavy losses. It also insists all are volunteers.
They are not little children. They are young men, all of them. The regime used to take us for military service at 18 years of age.
A few days earlier in the Aleppo region, a much less professional training drill. Some of these young recruits are also believed to be younger than 18.
My name is Bashar Mohammed, I'm 16. I'm here to gain military experience and defend my country against Bashar al-Assad.
It's not a recent development. Last August in Damascus, France 24 met Ibrahim, another 16-year-old soldier.
I used to want to be a journalist, to travel and to film, but now I'm expecting to be hit by a missile on the head at any moment. It's still my dream, though.
It is not known how many children or teenagers are in the ranks of the Free Syrian Army, or if they're all volunteers. These are questions Human Rights Watch has been trying to find an answer to.
It's hard to make an estimate of the number of child soldiers in Syria because we only have a partial picture of some brigades in certain provinces. It's impossible for us to put a figure on it, and I don't think any complete figures exist.
It's also difficult to determine exactly what the child soldiers do.
Some have taken part in combat, others have simply served as messengers, lookouts or worked in logistical supplies, so the roles are quite varied within the Free Syrian Army or some brigades, but all of them are ultimately contributing to armed action in one way or another.
Enlisting minors as soldiers is against international law. When they are under the age of 15, it's a war crime. Under pressure from organisations such as Human Rights Watch, the head of the Free Syrian Army has undertaken not to recruit child soldiers, but no guarantee has been given that this promise has been respected on the ground.
Meanwhile, incidents continue to illustrate how the Syrian conflict is spilling into neighbouring countries. 2 soldiers and an alleged militant were killed last month in the Lebanese border town of Arsal. The sunny town is said to provide a major supply line for rebels, but an increased army presence is now creating tensions. It shows once more how Lebanon, a fractured country of minorities, is split over the Syrian crisis. Our correspondent Lucy Fielder sent this report.
Arsal, a sunny enclave of 40,000 people in the foothills of the anti-Lebanon. To the east, behind these hills, lies the Syrian border. To the west, the Bekaa Valley, a bastion for Hezbollah, Damascus's key ally in Lebanon. Arsal hosts nearly 15,000 Syrian refugees and flies the flag of the revolution. Here you can meet Free Syrian Army members and even see signs of the war raging just a few miles away.
When the Scud missiles are launched from Damascus, we recognize the smoke and watch them pass over Arsal and back into Syrian territory.
Mohammed Jamar is from Homs, where he fights with the rebels.
Many Free Syrian Army fighters have family here, and they visit to check on them before going back to the front.
Over the last month, the Lebanese army has set up checkpoints on all roads leading into Arsal. after 2 of its soldiers were killed in an ambush just outside the town. Hours earlier, military intelligence men opened fire on this vehicle. Its driver was a Lebanese who fought with the rebels in Syria. His brother, who requested anonymity, tells us what happened.
The car in front started to shoot, and they were shooting from another car up there. There were bullets flying from all sides. They opened the door and pulled him to the ground. They saw him move and shot him again.
The army deployment has created tension with residents. This member of Jama'a Islamiyya, which is close to the Muslim Brotherhood, was arrested and held for 4 days. He says he was tortured.
They tied my hands with cable and blindfolded me, then beat me and hit my hands and feet. Then they suffocated me by pouring water into my face to make me confess and give them names.
Arsal's mayor believes that it was the Syrian regime that demanded the Lebanese army reinforcements.
The border between Arsal and Syria is now open. The regime army has pulled back towards Damascus. That's why the part of Lebanese intelligence that's helping the Syrian regime has surrounded the town. They're afraid of smuggling and supply lines to help the Syrian revolution.
Arsal may be cut off, but the refugees still flow in. They are now about 1/4 of the population, with new arrivals coming every day.
To Israel now, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been given 2 more weeks to form a new government following January's inconclusive elections. Last Saturday, Netanyahu's Likud party was granted the extension as talks continued with potential coalition partners. But the pressure is mounting because if this new March the 16th deadline is missed, the responsibility will pass to another party leader. Nicolas Germain has more.
4 weeks weren't sufficient to form a government. Benjamin Netanyahu's hoping the 2 extra ones he was given on Saturday by Israeli President Shimon Peres will be enough. The Prime Minister said that with countries like Syria and Iran in the region, time was running out.
At a time when our enemies are combining their efforts, we are charged with unifying our own forces to repel these dangers, and to my regret, this is not what's happening. I will continue my efforts, and I hope that I will succeed.
The Israeli Prime Minister has failed to form a government because of a surprise alliance between the far-right Jewish Home Party of Naftali Bennett and the centrist Yesh Atid movement of former TV anchor Yair Lapid. They came 2nd and 4th in January's election. Both have very different views but agree on one thing. They oppose the fact that ultra-Orthodox Jews are exempt from military service. According to the Israeli media, the 2 parties have put pressure on Netanyahu, saying they would only join his government if he excluded ultra-Orthodox groups. Analysts say Netanyahu's difficulties reflect his narrow victory in January. His list came first but only obtained 31 of the Knesset's 120 seats. If Netanyahu is once again unable to put together a coalition, Peres can pick another prime minister or call a snap election.
Everybody who has just been elected to the parliament knows that if he does make it, he's going back to election. I don't think any politician would like to have that. So I believe a government will be on time.
Netanyahu's new deadline is the 16th of March. If he fails to form a government, another consequence will be that Barack Obama, the President of the United States, Israel's closest ally, is likely to cancel his trip to the Middle Eastern country planned for the end of the month.
And Ethiopian runner Abraham Kabeto Ketla clinched the 3rd annual International Marathon in Jerusalem last Friday, setting a new course record. In all, 20,000 participants took to the streets of the ancient city for the event. But like many things in Jerusalem, the marathon has become embroiled in politics and a magnet for opposing claims. Palestinians called for a boycott because the route went through East Jerusalem, while some Israelis ran the course to assert sovereignty over the entire city.
A joyous crowd, thousands gathered for a long run up and down the hills of Jerusalem. For participants, this marathon was a tough athletic challenge, but for many Palestinians, it was yet another humiliation. Many of them say the race was a serious breach of international law because the course between the Israeli parliament and the Old City ran through East Jerusalem, a territory Palestinians consider as occupied and annexed by Israel.
Palestinians
are afraid to see something really bad happen, that many countries start supporting Israel, and the idea that Jerusalem is a Jewish city, a Zionist city, the idea that it belongs to Israel.
Israel sees Jerusalem as the undivided and eternal capital of the Jewish state, but the international community never acknowledged this status, and Palestinians demand that East Jerusalem become the capital of their own independent state. A few days before the marathon, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, called on both the participants and the sponsors to boycott the event. The race did eventually take place, but under heavy police presence.
The Israeli police have heightened security here in Jerusalem for this morning's marathon run. There are more than 1,000 police officers located in and around the different neighborhoods to both secure the runners as well as prevent any incidents from taking place.
Some Palestinians gathered along the course to demonstrate peacefully. The only threat to the runners' health, a bad case of exhaustion after running the 42 kilometers.
That's where we leave it this week, but do join us again next time for another roundup of events in the region. Bye for now.